Antonio, Antonio, why won't they listen? Antonio, Antonio, why won't they listen to you now?
Just Stop Oil is a non-violent environmental activist group which demands the UK government stop licensing all new oil, gas and coal projects. They have been disrupting the country for over a year, blocking and slowing traffic, gluing in themselves to roads, throwing a can of soup at Van Gogh's sunflowers and a cake into the face of King Charles' waxwork at London's Madame Tussauds. Their actions have been described in the media as reckless, selfish, extreme, arrogant and wrong. The protests drained police resources because extra police officers have to deal with demonstrations and disruptions. This is how Just Stop Oil is represented in the mainstream media. But who are these people behind the orange banners? Why are they doing this? And what drives them to keep going?
You can't go on holiday, can't go on holiday, can't go on holiday when you're dead.
My name's Frances, I'm 20 years old and I work in a cafe in Norwich here and I live in Norwich, yeah.
My name's Lindsay Maycock. I am from Scotland. I'm now doing a master's degree, an MSc in Sustainability and Environmental Studies at Strathclyde.
Hi, I'm Sam, I'm 39, I've worked in construction my whole life. I'm currently living in Norwich.
So my name is James Harvey. I live in Norfolk and I'm a project manager and I work in the finance sector.
So my name's Philippa Chapman. I'm from Bury St Edmunds and I'm a retired GP that now does wellbeing and mental health coaching.
Hello, my name is Rachel Bosler. I'm 27 years old and I'm a PhD student in political theory and an assistant lecturer.
Well, I'm from London originally, lived there most of my life, moved up to Norfolk in 2005 and I moved into Norwich in 2020. I'm retired.
I started in 2019 with the school strikes with Greta Thunberg. I was really inspired by Greta Thunberg and my friend Florence and I started organising the school strikes in Norwich and then in last summer, got invited to a talk by Just Stop Oil and I was terrified by it. It's really scary stuff and they taught you through all the science and everything, but also really motivated me and I thought, okay, we can still do this and
I actually started off in Extinction Rebellion. A friend of mine got involved with XR back in 2019 and she just made it sound so cool and it just sounded like such an amazing radical group of people. And one day I was on a young journalist forum and someone sent me a message saying that they needed radio presenters, and at the time it was kind of just a gold tick for my CV, but I had some really inspiring interviews with some Extinction Rebellion activists, and I think something just kind of clicked in my mind, and all of a sudden I started to really panic about the climate emergency, and it also started to become clear around this time that realistically Extinction Rebellion was not the most radical group anymore, and I started to notice more and more posters popping up around town of Just Stop Oil, and eventually I decided to go and see what was up. I was very apprehensive at first, I have to say.
For me, it was kind of how it is for a lot of people. I met people and that was when I moved to the Midlands a couple of years ago, and then I learned more about the HS2 project and I got involved in Stop HS2. And we went out, we done actions, and then once you meet people and you get empowered and you find out about more environmental issues, it just starts from there.
I guess I've always had a concern about the environment and ecology, as so many other people have. I first started taking direct action with Extinction Rebellion back in 2000 18 it would have been when XR first formed.
Started with Extinction Rebellion, and I just joined the local group in Bury St Edmunds about January before COVID, and I managed to get to one march in Cambridge and one meeting, and then COVID happened, lockdown, I was shielding, so it all kind of fizzled out. I joined Just Stop Oil probably about September, just before the October actions, and the reason I did that was because I think Liz Truss had, or someone from the government had said, right, we've got new licenses for oil and gas, and having been a bit frustrated with the lack of what was happening, to then be going in the completely wrong direction, that's what made me really, really cross. And I had felt like I had to do something. I think I went on did an online All Right talk, and then joined.
I kind of just came into Just Stop Oil. I sort of had an interest in environmental activism before Just Stop Oil had come about, but Extinction Rebellion never really exemplified my values and my beliefs in what an organisation should be about. Without wanting to get too academic, I think their understanding of power as quite symbolic. They really like doing quite theatrical actions. I think that to really challenge power, you need to do things that are a bit more material. So when I saw Just Stop Oil blocking oil terminals, I thought that is the kind of action, that is the kind of group that I want to join.
It was a leaflet through the letterbox that got me involved with Just Stop Oil. So I'm quite a late developer with that. I got a leaflet through the letterbox, invited me to a talk in Norwich. So I went along and got involved from there. At first I said, I can do some volunteering, I can deliver some leaflets, but I can't get arrested. Why not? Just because I was scared. Never done anything like that before in my life. Then I went on to a march in London, first ever march I've done in my life at the age of 61 in London last year. I did that again, can't get arrested, and then I got arrested.
My first action was a roadblock in Shoreditch High Street last October. It went well. Yeah, it was fine actually. You get to know everyone who you're going to go out on the action with. So I went out with a team of people from Norwich, and in the months leading up to that, I've been going to loads of socials and meetings and stuff. So we all felt like a really close-knit group. And so you could just really trust that everyone around you's got your back. So we have all these emotional debriefs the day before, how are you feeling about the action? And I was just I don't want to do this, I'm really terrified. And they were like, it's okay, you're going to be fine, we've got you. And yeah, when you've got those people around you, it's all right. And even out on the road, we had a banner in front of us, but I was grabbing the Max, who was next to me's knee. So I was just he was like, you're fine, you've got this. So yeah, it's really the people that make it doable. But yeah, it was fine, it was good, it was manageable, and it wasn't too scary, and you're really well prepared. So we had our banner taken off us, and I got dragged a couple of times out of the road, I think, because I'm quite small. People just think, we can get her out quite easily. So you've just sort of got to shuffle back. I mean, they didn't grab me too, they didn't hurt me, which was good. Yeah, they got me under the arm, so it was just just let it happen. The more you resist, the more likely you are to just hurt yourself. So I just let them move me and went back. But yeah, with the non-violence training, I practiced that scenario. So I was just doing my breathing and just staying really calm and just being okay, you can take me and I'm just gonna go back, So yeah, I felt prepared for that to happen. So it wasn't too overwhelming or scary, but it's very weird.
I went to a few marches and stuff like that, and then I was ready to dip my toes into direct action properly at this point. So I did what's called a die-in with Extinction Rebellion, which is basically where everybody goes into the streets and pretends to be dead for a few minutes, and it's really quite striking if you see it in person. But the first action that I did with Just Stop Oil was we went into Glasgow University, which is they have investment in fossil fuel, and also it's full of students, so we wanted to make them aware. So we just went in with some megaphones and started shouting. is terrifying, I have to say. I'm not necessarily the most disruptive person naturally. I get very nervous and stuff like that. You know, I'm find being in front of people and speaking and stuff like that so nerve-wracking and stuff like that. So I was really nervous at first.
First action was in April. So in April, a lot of people know we were doing actions in April, and the reason was because we weren't going out to disrupt the public. We were going out straight to the oil companies. We were going to the oil terminals, and we were blockading oil terminals. We were having like mass trespasses in the middle of the night. We were going out there, and we were basically chaining ourselves to oil refineries, and we were stopping the oil at its source. We want to go straight to the heart of it, straight to the oil terminals, and that's where we went. We stopped half the oil in the Midlands, half the oil in the South East, but we got no media coverage, and that's why in October we changed tact. We went to London, we disrupted the public, we went for big media outreach, lots of actions like the soup actions that got people around the world talking. It's all about people opening conversations and understanding. I'd like to go back to the oil terminals. They're fun actions, they're really fun. When the first time you're out at night hiding from helicopters, it's fun, isn't it? It's different to wearing an orange bib and going out on the streets marching. It is fun. So these actions are fun. And I say more importantly, the actual community of civil resistance and the people I've met in the last 2 years. I've met so many good friends and I absolutely love doing this. And I've had the best year, and it's empowering because it can be really terrifying and really like hopeless if you feel like you can't do anything and you think there's too much and there's too many problems. But because Just Stop Oil got a really simple demand, it can be made like that. It's just a little signature from Rishi Sunak.
First real actions with Just Stop Oil would have been down in London in October time when we took to the streets then. We met up in the park around the corner, St James's Park, and then we made our way to Trafalgar Square. And you always have those pre-action nerves where you don't know quite what's going to happen. Is everything going to go according to plan? Are the lock-on tubes going to get there without the police stopping you? So that you have all those pre-action nerves, and I'm trying to hide my camera so I'm not drawing attention to the people around me. And actually, nobody's really looking at you. They're looking at Nelson's column or the Lions or something. But we got into the square. The nerves went, and then the first teams got into the roads, blocking the various junctions around Trafalgar Square. Sat down, and then the traffic stopped and calmed down. And it's like a sense of release when everything goes in smoothly. And of course, it wasn't very long before the police turned up because they're only around the corner. But it went very well. It went very well, and we got media attention off the back of it. And it felt like it gave me hope, I think, that we can make change with so many people coming together, because we know that writing letters and signing petitions and writing to your MP really hasn't had much effect for the last 30 odd years. So actually taking direct action, civil disobedience, it gives me hope, I think, and it seems to be the only thing that will make a difference.
I went to the first big coalition march on the 1st of October. I felt really inspired. I felt really glad to be involved in something, and it was quite moving. So I think that now I've done a couple of these which are non-arrestable, but they're a bit kind of more because they're not organised. And you're dealing with a bit more of aggro from the public that I feel like I could do something arrestable, but I don't want to get sent to prison either.
My first protest was one with Extinction Rebellion a few years ago, where we occupied Marble Arch in London, but there were some arrests made, but I was not arrested. Generally, most of the people at that protest were not arrested. My first action with Just Stop Oil, I went to Grays in Essex to try and help with blocking the flow of oil from the oil terminal there. There was a tunnel that was under the terminal, which we were hoping would stop the tankers, but the police did not want to do that, and they were endangering the lives of the people in the tunnel. So I went to try and support them and to try and do an action that would force the police to stop the road. If I'm on an action, it's really, really stressful. You get quite a lot of adrenaline, maybe like if you're about to do a big presentation or a sporting event, your body's very much in a tense state beforehand. When you actually do the action, you get so much support from the people around you, even when it can be a little bit hostile on the ground. I'm usually able to stay focused and stay centered. Sometimes it can be a bit scary, and people can be a bit aggressive or violent, even if a majority of the people there are quite supportive, which does tend to happen. If you have one person who's a bit angry, it can be scary. And then afterwards, I feel very proud of myself that I've done it, that I've been able to stay non-violent, and I've never had any regrets afterwards. So.
For the 2, 3, 4 weeks leading up to that, I was getting more and more anxious. Never been in trouble with the police, you know. The thought of deliberately breaking the law and deliberately saying no to the police when they ask you to get out the road was, you know, quite frightening for me. But did it, you know, and because I was with people that I trusted, you know, I'd known these people. So this was in October. I joined Just Stop Oil in, I think, May. So I'd known them, 4 or 5 months, I guess. I trusted them. So in the morning, we were told we're going to Victoria Street. And in fact, we were outside the Department for Business and Energy, which is, fun enough, you know, energy, you know, the department that issues the new oil license. So we were right, absolutely in the right place. So yeah, we sat down on the road. The police were there immediately because of where it was.
Yeah, it was all right. Again, like, I was fully prepared. Like, I knew that I was going to get arrested because I was determined to block the road for as long as I could, and eventually the only thing that was going to get me off the road was me being arrested. So I was arrested, and I was put in a van with like 3 of my friends, and when I got in the van, one of my friends was just chatting with his arresting officer, the police officer, about walking holidays. And I was like, oh, I can relax now. Like, okay, we're just having a chat.
I was arrested once so far. The arrest itself was pretty unpleasant, but I was actually probably expecting it to be worse than it was. I was expecting to be in tears the entire time, but it happened almost entirely how people told me it would.
The first arrest was with Insulate Britain, and it was like a year or so ago, and it was like a new thing because I actually felt coming down from the Midlands down into London, because I knew what I was about to do. I felt like Winston Smith from 1984. You felt like you were stepping out of society in this way, that you were just like stepping out from the state control and doing something. It was the most wonderful action. The people were fantastic, and I absolutely loved doing it. But with that particular action, it was liberating, and that's the only way I can describe it. It was like, I've done this, and you feel part of the cause, and you feel like there's hope, because it's a simple act. It's basically going and sitting down somewhere where you're told not to sit. You're not doing acrobatics. You're not doing this handstand or any crazy sort of stuff, or you're just sitting down where you're told not to sit down. And such a beautiful, beautiful action. And then most recent arrest was when I was in a tunnel. So there's a few of us that were occupying tunnels in Essex that was to stop the flow of oil and put pressure on the government.
I haven't been arrested. It's been very close a number of times, but it could very easily happen because we've seen the police now start to arrest journalists and camera people.
Yeah, I've been arrested 2 times. So I said I've done 5 actions. It's kind of a bit abnormal to not get arrested on some of these actions, but for whatever reason, I was not arrested on some of them. So I was arrested twice, once for a roadblock on Shoreditch High Street, and again for a roadblock on High Street, Kensington.
By the time I got to the police station, and in the police station, everything that happened, I was kind of, that's right. That's what they told me would happen. It's like you're going from this piece to this piece to this piece. And the fact that I was pretty clear on what was going to happen was a very big help. Finally got into the cell. Got offered some food. I had a vegan curry, which all the Just Stop Oil people have. There was a piece on the news actually a few weeks later, because of the number of arrests, that the Metropolitan Police had run out of vegan curry. That's how we bring down the government.
We are Just Stop Oil.
We're demanding.
We are demanding.
That the UK
Yeah, I am afraid of it. I want to go into teaching. I want to be a PSHE teacher. That's what I want to do. And I know that by certain things on a criminal record, if you can justify them, it doesn't matter when you go into teaching. But the more extensive my record is, the less likely it is that I'll be able to get jobs. But that was the thing that was stopping me from going into action, the fact that I really wanted to do that with my life. But then I just thought, if I don't do this, then what kind of life am I going to have? You know, it doesn't matter if I get a teaching degree if, like, society collapses and, you know, the food systems collapse. So I'm more scared of that than I am of the criminal record. I just had to, like, weigh it up. But it does suck. It really sucks. But I thought I'd rather be, you know, in a society that still functions with a criminal record than, like, without one and everything's gone to shit.
I basically knew that the consequences were not likely to be on my, if I were to get a record, they wouldn't be there for long. I think the charge would be like willful obstruction of the highway, which out of all of the forms of criminal records you can get is the least concerning. I was also applying to university at the time, and I combed through the Uni of Strathclyde's website, and I noticed that you have to tell them if you've been convicted for a violent crime. But, you know, we're non-violent. Willful obstruction of the highway is not considered to be a violent crime. Neither is, you know, malicious mischief or what's the other one? Breach of the peace, which is the other one that activists quite often get charged for. So I wasn't really massively concerned, although I did have my mum constantly chipping in my ear saying, don't do it, you know, think about your future kind of thing. But I think something which I had a bit of, and I still have increasing discomfort with is, you know, my mum said to me, you know, you've got so many things that you want to do with your future, so don't get arrested, don't get a criminal record sort of thing. But I just sort of thought, is that to say that people that have no potential in life should just go on and do all this arrestable action stuff? It made me really quite uncomfortable. Like, it's almost like saying, if you can't use your mind to fight the climate crisis, you should use your body. And I don't know, that those two categories are separate. And it made me quite uncomfortable because, you know, I know a lot of people that have ended up in prison who are working on PhDs and stuff like that. It's like, people are not here because they feel like it. They're here because, you know, there's a climate emergency. But I mean, of course it did worry me at some points, but I think all things considered, you know, I felt morally that I had to do this.
It doesn't really matter getting a criminal record because, in all fairness, unless we make the changes now, it's not like, I'm not being overly melodramatic, but at the moment, even like last year, we had 40-degree heat, we had massive heat waves, we had droughts, 60 families lost their homes. On the hottest day last year, there was excess deaths of 638 people. People are dying because of this in the UK and around the world. So we have to act.
My work would be could cause trouble if they were mentioned, that the company name was mentioned in the activity. That's where the problems may arise. But it does also get to the point where you think, I've got to take action, even if it means my arrest. I've got to do it because nothing else is working. So yeah, I'm nervous about it, but I think in my head I've reconciled myself to the fact that at some point I probably will get arrested for it. What the charges might be, we'll have to see, but nothing else is having a difference.
I don't mind the charges because I'm self-employed, and you know, so I don't have anyone else to be one that's the way. But I'm just worried. I don't really want to be kept in prison. You know, not while I've got a daughter at home still depending on me. So yeah.
And it's easy for me now because I'm retired. I'm never going to have to go for another job interview. Never going to have to write another CV. So I haven't got a criminal record yet. But if I get a criminal record next year, so what? You know, it doesn't matter. I don't have to declare it on my CV or anything like that. So one of the things that inspires me is the youngsters that are doing this. You know, people of your age, people like Francis that you saw on the march. Many youngsters. I'm thinking if they can do it, and they've still got their lives ahead of them, you know, what's stopping me? Why can't I do it?
Just how scary the alternative is. Like, sometimes it can get really overwhelming being in this movement, and but I just think, is this what I'm facing and dealing with right now really more scary than the alternative? And the answer is always no.
What keeps me going, I'd say it's the community, I would say, is a big part of it. And I suppose just hearing about other people that have done direct action. You know, the suffragettes obviously made history and stuff like that. And I think, yeah, I would say probably direct action movements that have come before me are the main thing that keep me going. And whenever it feels like this isn't right, or if it feels wrong, or it feels like we're fighting for nothing, I try and remember that all of these previous movements that came before us, they all were bound to have felt this way at some point, right?
At the moment, the situation is desperate. It's absolutely urgent. We know there's climate tipping points. You hear about them. And they know the only way to stop the government issuing new licences is not through writing to your MPs. It's not through standing with a placard. It is through civil disruption. It's through non-violent civil disruption, stopping the machine that is killing us.
Because I'm an uncle. I've got a niece who's 9, a nephew who's 11. I'm 47. And I wonder, you know, will they have a chance to grow up like I have? Will they even get to half my age with what's happening in the world? But I also think there's a real sense of rage and injustice at the injustice that's going on. I'm just so angry that the government can get, and oil and gas business can get away with lining their own pockets effectively, making billions and billions of pounds. The government's subsidising this to the tune of £236 million a week. You've got thousands of people dying in the global south from flooding, fire, famine, drought, and we're not doing anything to cut down emissions. The government is effectively rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic rather than doing anything meaningful. So I think there's a sense of rage at the injustice of it all, but also coupled with love for my fellow human beings that care on this planet, and the likes of my niece and nephew.
I've got 3 children who I'm worried about their future, and I'm someone that I don't sit well with injustice, and I don't like the fact that, you know, we're a rich nation that has caused most of this, you know, the Industrial Revolution happened, you know, however many years ago, and we've been burning fossil fuels and consuming energy like for decades and decades and decades, and it's the South they're going to be hit hardest first. So yeah, I kind of feel bad about that. I feel bad about my own lifestyle the last 50 years, you know. I kind of look back and go, I had guilt-free travel really at that time. Now I don't want to get off plane.
What really keeps me going is the amount of care and support in Just Stop Oil, the fact that our demand of no new oil and gas licensing is backed by the UN, by the International Energy Agency, fairly conservative bodies, particularly the International Energy Agency. If we don't get this, we are all going to die. And I guess what really keeps me going is knowledge that people in the global south are dying right now. The UK's climate policy, it is killing people right now. And the fact that just makes me sick. It makes me so angry, and I just need to know that I'm doing everything I can to stop this murderous, ecocidal policy that the UK government is passing.
Or just the state of the planet, really. The state of the planet, and, you know, what we're doing to it.
back in October, we did like the London actions and we blocked the Mall on Buckingham Palace. We sat there for, I think, about 2 hours and then the police started arresting us. I felt really good about it, actually. I think being outside the Mall, you know, the only people realistically were disrupting are tourists. So, you know, we had one person get out of their car and said, "Can you please move? I'm trying to get to the airport," which was a bit of a funny opening line, I thought, to say to an environmental group. But it felt really, really good. And the changing of the guard ceremony, you know, that happens every, I can't remember how often it is, but the police started saying to us that we needed to move off the road, otherwise the changing of the guards was going to basically trample over us. And I panicked at first, thinking that they were being honest, but the changing of the guards just moved to the side. And that was a really good feeling, because I thought this is exactly the kind of business as usual attitude that we want to try and break through.
We went to Shoreditch again to put in a roadblock on the fairly major junction there. And again, the roadblocks went in very well. We had a team from Norwich and teams from around the east of England. But the public there were a lot more aggressive. So although we stopped all the traffic, they were physically dragging Just Stop Oil people out of the road, removing the banners. And of course, we're completely non-violent, so we don't fight back or struggle. But once you've been dragged to the side, often people would shuffle back into the road. And we also had cars that were nudging in towards people sitting in the road as well, actually physically pushing into them in some instances. And that was interesting because members of the public actually stepped in then and told the drivers to stop and not to effectively run people over. So we had quite a lot of support there, as well as some aggression from members of the public, which is really good to see.
On the road, there are some hostile people, but there's a lot of people who are really supportive. Particularly young mothers have come up and sort of sometimes in tears told us they're really proud of what we're doing. On one roadblock, a 19-year-old who was just passing by came and sat down with us and joined in blocking the road because she was terrified for her future.
Just stop, you say oil. Just stop.
Oil.
Just stop.
Oil.
When I say just stop, you...
Hope, love and community.
Radical belief for better.
Fighting for future.
Hope for the future.
A clear demand and disruption.
Hope, justice and love.
Hope, hope.
1, 2, 3, 4. Let's show fossil fuels the door. 5, 6, 7, 8. There is just no time to wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's show fossil fuels the door. 5, 6, 7, 8. There is just no time to wait.